What is something about yourself that sounds totally made up but is 100% real? I was the best man on both sides of a lesbian wedding because I had dated both the bride and the bride, stayed close friends and introduced them to each other after our breakups. Imagine turning two women lesbian after dating them. I've published 4 peer-reviewed scientific papers on hamster testicles. That's nuts. A pelican engulfed my head with its massive freaking beak when I was a small child. Pelicans are expletives, expletives. I ran out of gas outside of La Paz, Bolivia. Luckily it was downhill for about 6 kilometers into the city. I coasted the whole way on my motorbike, past buses and drifted into a gas station. I never missed a beat. At age 50-something and with limited to no video game experience, my mother completed Mario 64 before I did, in about half the time it finally took me to do it. Get good, sweetie. When I was a kid, I woke up to find my cat giving birth to her kittens on my pillow, 1 inch from my face. I took it as a compliment. It totally is. That's like the Cat Congressional Medal of Honor. I am related to William Henry Harrison, the president who died from hypothermia because he wouldn't wear a jacket. My great-grandfather and his son both died from hypothermia as well, but under slightly different experiences. I have almost died from eating way too many vitamins, jumping into a ceiling fan, and jumping from a cliff. My dad almost lit a gas station on fire. Basically, we are a very dumb bloodline starting from William Henry Harrison. When my mom was in grad school she took several labs where she worked with cadavers. Because my dad worked nights she often had to take me to class with her, and she'd usually just plonk me down on the table with the cadaver while she worked on it. I was once sponsored by the Crunk Energy Drink Company for sailing. I imagine I was the only sailor on their list. I literally just emailed them saying that I sailed and asked if they wanted me to put stickers on my boat. They sent me a few cases of the drink, t-shirts, hats, the works. My car was known as the Crunk Mobile. I can't look left. Seriously. I'm not a zombie looker, it's like the Zoolander of birth defects. It's called Duane syndrome and my left eye can turn left, so if I try to look to my left I see double. Growing up my parents raised me to believe it was a party trick and not a disability, so I would always show it off to friends, which in retrospect I think was pretty sweet. My mom discovered that something was off when I was a baby and she was doing the airplane motion with a spoon of baby food to the left. My left eye was not cooperating, lol. A lot of you have asked about driving. It didn't impact me mainly because my mom taught me how to use my mirrors first by turning my head before even letting me turn the car on for the first time. She walked around the car and we tried to identify my limitations. I also have a blind spot detector on my car now, which is super helpful. I try not to totally depend on it though. I saw the former Prime Minister of Poland in his underwear. That's not how the rhyme goes. I see London. I see France. I see the Prime Minister of Poland in his underpants. I got hernia by sneezing too hard. I got mine trying to match my wife's pregnant belly. One of my ancestors was dumb and bought one of Napoleon's doorknobs. It turns out it's fake. Doorknobs were invented after Napoleon died. Once in college, I applied for a job at the library help desk. I figured I would help people find books. Didn't give it much more thought than that. During the interview, I aced all of the customer service questions. Then they asked me whether I knew how to defrag a hard drive. Cue alarm bells in my head, but I kept calm outwardly and said no. But you can teach me. I worked in IT for 3 years by accident. They were too nice to fire me. My great-great-grandfather was a Pinkerton detective, acted on vaudeville, and had 5 wives in 2 different states that knew nothing of each other. He also slightly changed his last name each time and never got caught until Ancestry website happened, lol. I took my mother for a surprise trip to NYC. She got married to my father there in '68. The surprise was manufactured by way of telling her we were going to Australia. We live in New Zealand, so a trip to Australia is not a huge deal. It's the type of thing you could do for the weekend, and therefore she packed a bag and brought her passport. We got to the airport and said, surprise. We're going to New York. And she cried her eyes out with delight. When we arrived, on our first morning, I said, okay, what do you want to do? She said, when I was last here, in 1968, the Twin Towers weren't complete, so, I'd like to go to the top of them. Your wish is my command. I said, and off we went to the WTC. That was the afternoon of September 10, 2001. Suffice it to say, there was a particular poignancy when we looked out the window at around 8 a.m. the next morning. I had my tongue surgically enhanced for more reach and flexibility when I was 8. My grandfather went AWOL on the French Foreign Legion and was banned from ever going back to France. All because he left to marry my grandmother. One of my dad's friends was in the RAF, but he got bored with it and went AWOL and joined the French Foreign Legion. However, He got bored with that too, so he went AWOL and went back to the RAF and took his punishment. However, this is not where the story ends. Later he and his platoon, including my dad, were going on a skiing training camp in Italy. However, the route took them through France. This is the bit where he informs his platoon leader that they need to do a detour around France because he would be arrested upon entering France. Safe to say his friends were not impressed. My family ancestry can be traced back to a court jester who served in the court of King Jacob IV of Sweden. Whenever someone calls you a fool, you're just carrying on the legacy. My grandfather got an award from Mussolini in 1935. He was just born with 6.3 kilograms, 13 pounds 14.2 ounces, and was awarded the award of Italy's biggest baby. I was shooting some stuff in my village and a bullet ricocheted and hit me in the torso. I was afraid my parents would kill me if they found out. I was young, so I used a knife and tweezers to remove the fragment and a stapler to stitch it up and then covered the wound, and they never found out until a few years later when I told them. I once won a $500 raffle during a routine visit to my local tea shop. It was the building's annual Black Friday event and there were 5 baskets with varying amounts of goods, services, and coupons. I needed tea, so my only stop was the tea shop. It cost me $20 to fill my tins, but they said raffle tickets were given out after a $25 purchase. I said free kid and got a hot tea for me and the woman in line behind me entered with that one ticket. I got a call a few days later saying I won the top prize basket. When I went to claim, they asked about my purchases. I told them and they said the drawings had over 1,000 tickets and many people had over a dozen entries. The raffle prize included $25 to the tea shop. I lost my heel in a lawnmower accident. Here's the story. I was 4 at the time and I won't say who exactly did it. But he was mowing and it was a riding mower and the hitch on the back where you can hook a little trailer. I love to stand on that part and ride. Well, this time I saw a frog in the grass and being the 4-year-old I was at the time, I jumped off the mower and onto the grass and put my hands over the frog to catch it and he didn't realize I had jumped off and he backed up. I found out my father wasn't my biological father in 10th grade biology class. We were learning about blood types and traits. I raised my hand thinking I was a smart but, your chart isn't accurate, my dad has AB negative and I'm O positive. My teacher said, I think your mom has some explaining to do. And we all chuckled. Turned out, he was not my father. I was almost named Storm because I was born at 3 a.m. in the middle of a massive tornado storm, 1 touchdown actually a few minutes after I was born. I was also essentially dead. Docs thought they were going to lose both me and my mom, but somehow I lived benches. A horse threw me in the air when I was a child. But I wasn't on his back. He grabbed the skin of my back with his teeth and yeeted me. I can smell some illnesses and chronic symptoms. My sense of smell is normally pretty average, but I can sometimes smell if a person is sick before they start showing symptoms, and have been able to identify or predict 2 seizures, a diabetic blood sugar drop, and multiple chronic migraines before they happened. Are you a service dog? I never graduated high school but I have a bachelor's degree. I was homeschooled and my mom never went through the legal steps to actually get me a real diploma, so she made one in Photoshop that was then used to get me into this Bowdoin community college that didn't verify it. From there I got my associate's degree, which I then used to get into a decent university where I got my bachelor's. I sneeze when I think of sex. Every single time. My wife likes to give me crap if I just sneeze innocently. She thinks she's a riot. I completed GTA San Andreas in 3 days. I never slept, eat nor crap. Are these 2 separate facts? I can't drink red Gatorade. This isn't super uncommon but the red dye makes me nauseous and freak out. The funny thing is I used to drink it all the time without a problem, but one year I started feeling weird and sick all the time, and I stopped. It definitely helped, and I don't drink it. I tried it again a little while ago. Still no. I've shot an actual RPG-7. Now if I was in the army that might be less surprising to others but I'm not. There was a range in Cambodia that lets you shoot it for a very steep price. My dad's name is Luigi and my uncle's name is Mario. They are brothers. My great-grandma ran a brothel back at the turn of the 20th century. She was Algonquin and people were pretty racist back then so she had a hard time getting business. Since it was a coastal town, Maine, she bought up a couple of leaky old rowboats and would load them up with hookers and booze and row them out to the ships at night. When ships came into port most of the crew would get shore leave and hit the bars and brothels in town, but they always had to leave a few sailors on the ship to keep an eye on it. My great-grandmother figured those guys had money too and probably felt left out. She basically set up water-based lot lizards. or Uber hose. Worked during the summer at some kind of hotel summer camp for people from Eastern Europe, and one of my colleagues, the cook, found a wounded crow, healed it and then trained it. The bird would sit on her shoulder when she was cooking, would come to her on command and would share cigarettes with her, also while cooking. Nobody knows why I'm half blind, not even WHO. I went blind in my left eye when I was 7, my optic nerve atrophied. There is no explanation as to why. I have had everything tested, and my body was at the time completely normal. I've had plenty of tests, met far too many experts, and I've had several specialists come to hospitals near me to inspect me and all sorts, and I've had far too many tests, and the answer is, well, it just happened, we guess. There's plenty more. My life kind of reads like some kind of awful sitcom or something, but the eye thing is the easiest to digest. I've eaten a piece of the Berlin Wall. It got me suspended from school and grounded for a month. I have a single chest hair, in the center of my chest. I have had it for 15 years, I am 30. Sometimes it falls out but then grows back within a few days. Having 2 failed outpatient surgeries in 15 years to fix a recurring pilonidal cyst, I refuse to go back and now have 2 buttholes I can fart out of. And that's likely enough Reddit today for all of us. I never knew if it hit me or close to me, but a bolt of lightning sent me flying a couple of meters onto a wall when I was a kid. Walked it off completely unscathed but with a newfound respect for thunderstorms. I have orgasm synesthesia. But only from penetrative orgasm. Whenever I orgasm I see purple. Sometimes it's like a field of purple flowers or a whole bunch of grapevines or something, but it's always this lovely purple image, except the one time it was Barney the dinosaur, LOL. Sometimes it's just a full picture of just a lovely lavender color, like my brain blanks on lavender. I've had chronic constipation all my life. I'm crapping more frequently than ever before at the moment, with a blistering 1.5 to 2 craps per week. The longest I ever went without was roughly a month, which resulted in passing something the size and consistency of a brick. Sorry to say this, but holy crap. When I was born some of my organs were in the wrong places. The doctors put me in NICU and told my parents not to get too attached. The next day they checked and all my organs had migrated into the correct places. I have a superpower where I can turn money into less money by investing. I was voted most likely to get abducted by aliens as a senior in high school. Nothing to report, yet. It has been almost 23 years. I had a milk addiction for a while, caused by drinking nearly a gallon of milk daily. Turns out, the enzymatic digestion of L3-casein releases beta-casomorphine 7, which has opiate-like activity. It's usually not a large enough concentration to have much of an effect, but because I drank so much milk, I started to get withdrawal symptoms if I didn't have it on time. I'd have to bring 2 liters cartons of milk to work with me every day. When I traveled to Germany to visit friends, I would have to stop at the nearest supermarket wherever we went to buy milk. I even drank a glass of milk at the top of the Eiffel Tower, which, to my horror, they served me hot. The cashier at the first supermarket I went to in Germany looked at me in shock when I came to the counter with 8 1-liter cartons of milk, their entire stock of milk, because they did not have the 1-gallon jugs that I was accustomed to getting me through a day. I'm fine now. I spoke to my doctor about it a few years ago and we realized that it was a serious problem, and so I quit cold turkey, didn't touch milk for months. The first couple of weeks were a complete but after that, I felt much better. I hardly ever drink milk now, almost exclusively with pasta or dessert, but not much more than a glass twice a week. Cheese on the other hand. I accidentally swallowed a small fish while snorkeling in Singapore. I had my appendix out in 6th grade, and the doctors discovered it had vestigial elements not common to modern men, and it is currently on display at a medical college. I really should visit it someday. At age 17 I contaminated a snow leopard feces sample with an elephant feces sample, resulting in a $500,000 loss to my local zoo. I graduated summa cum laude with both a BS in electrical engineering and a BA in German. My first full-time job out of college? Minimum wage Walmart associate. I've hiked over 200 mountains in 7 years. Not hiked 200 times. 200 different mountains. I live in the Northeast US. It's easier than it sounds, but largely sounds like horse crap. I've been hit by a car, twice. Once when I was 11, and once when I was 22. Both times resulted in pretty serious injuries. After I was hit the second time, the first thing I remember was the paramedics rolling me over on the ground, and I asked them what happened. They informed me I had just been hit by a car, and my immediate response was, "Oh, not again." To which they responded, "No, the car only hit you once." I then proceeded to tell me I had been hit by a car once before.